What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Backup Fantasy Sports. I'm your host, Euan Leaf, and today it is Thursday, April 7th, and that means it is opening day of the 2022 Major League Baseball season. We're finally here. 1 week's worth of delays thanks to the lockout, but baseball is back, and it all starts today, even despite some postponements already in the Northeast. But we will get to that at a later episode. So today, in honor of opening day, we are going to be talking about season predictions, and I'm going to give some bold predictions, one player for each division, and that is how this episode is going to go. I'll do the predictions at the end, so we'll just get right into the bold predictions right now, starting with the AL East. Joey Gallo, he's going to lead baseball in home runs this year. He has at least 38 home runs in 3 of his last 4 full seasons, one being non-COVID. He has a 162 game average of 41 home runs. Last year was a difficult year for Joey Gallo. A typically streaky player had his cold streak at the worst possible time after getting traded to the New York Yankees. He actually came in with his lowest line drive rate of his career in the last 2 seasons, but now with a full season in New York, I expect him to bounce back pretty healthily. That lineup is stacked. You've got Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge, maybe DJ LeMahieu can bounce back a little bit, but right now on roster resource, it's predicted to be Donaldson, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, and Joey Gallo. Those guys are OBP monsters. They're going to be on base a lot. Maybe not as many RBI opportunities because a lot of those guys will also be hitting the ball over the fence. But I fully predict Joey Gallo to better his current projection on Fangraphs, which is 43 home runs. So that's not bad at all. 207 average with a 348 OBP. So obviously in a points league and an OBP league, he is phenomenal. But 2022 projections, 43 home runs. I think he beats that. I think we're looking at 50 home runs here. And I believe he will lead Major League Baseball in home runs. Moving on to the AL Central, gonna go with the hottest name on the street right now, Bobby Witt Jr. I'm predicting he scores more head-to-head points per game than Javier Baez and Carlos Correa. And this is notable because they're all kind of going around the same spot in ADP. Baez is going at pick 70 on Fantasy Pros. Correa's the 82nd pick. And Bobby Witt Jr. is at the 90th pick. And I just expect the rookie to come in and blow the doors off. Last year, between AA and AAA, he hit 33 home runs with 29 stolen bases, 143 WRC plus, so 43% better than the league average hitter. He's going to be batting second in an improved Royals lineup. I don't want to necessarily throw around the good tag for the Royals lineup, but he's going to be batting in front of Salvador Perez, right behind Whit Merrifield. So, and they've got some prospects coming up. He's slated to play third base right now. He came up as a shortstop, but Adalberto Mondesi. I've had trouble saying that guy's name since I got the podcast back up and running. He is going to be playing shortstop right now, but he is injured all the time. And I would not be surprised if Witt Jr. moves over to shortstop eventually in 2022. And yeah, I mean, Correa has last year, he had one of his best years of his career. In a contract year, he averaged 3.3 fantasy points per game, according to CBS scoring. And then in 2020, in the regular season, he averaged 2 points a game, but he did catch on fire in the playoffs as the Astros nearly made the World Series that year. And then Baez has been 2.9 in 2021 and 1.9 in 2020. I think the best years of Javier Baez are behind him, and especially in a points league, his like kind of speed, stolen bases, I don't think it's gonna make him as valuable as of a pick as the 70th that he's going overall right now. And he's moving from Wrigley Field to Comerica Park. And I just think the home runs are going to come down. Same for Correa in Minnesota. It's going to be a lot colder there than Houston. And I think Witt Jr. is just, like I said, 33 home runs, 29 stolen bases last year. I think he definitely has a shot at 2020, possibly 25-25. So my bold prediction is he will outscore two of the bigger names at shortstop in fantasy baseball, despite them not being part of the elite tier this season in drafts. Moving over to the AL West now, went a little bit homer on this one with an Astros pick, but I think Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez will finish top 5 in AL MVP voting. Is that bold enough? I hope so. I mean, I think one of these guys has a legit chance to finish top 3 if everything goes right in Houston, but my bold prediction will be they both finish top 5 because those are the two guys that are going to carry this Astros team back to the playoffs and a 5th AL West title in 6 seasons, hopefully, as an Astros homer. So Tucker last year, he was top 10% in expected batting average, expected slugging, WOBA, and expected WOBA. But it wasn't like he really disappointed all that much because he still slashed 294, 359 OBP, 557 slugging. His batting average and slugging percentage have improved on every type of pitch from 2020 to 2021. So he's seen more major league pitching as he gets in the game, becomes an everyday player, and he is just making leaps and strides. And then getting a little inside baseball here, but according to Baseball Savant, he was 3rd in the league last year in mostly gone homers, which means that his home runs would have been gone in 29 of the 30 Major League Baseball parks. And he even received an MVP vote last year. So, people he's on the mind of people. He was often buried in the bottom half of the Astros lineup. And right now on roster resource, it looks like it might be the same way. They actually have him predicted to be in the 6th spot in the lineup behind Yuli Gurriel at the 5th spot. But I mean, I could definitely, like, if Tucker starts to hit the ball, like we know he can, like he did last year, I could easily see Michael Brantley, who's batting 2nd right now, moving down a bit. He's a steadying force, but I think the more that Tucker proves that he can handle all of this major league pitching, I mean, he's already done it, but I think Dusty Baker just has his ways. But he's also said he doesn't want Jose Altuve to hit leadoff. So we'll see how the Astros actually come out for their first game against the Angels this week. And hopefully Tucker is a little bit further up the lineup. And then with Alvarez, I mean, this guy just took the world by storm in his rookie year. And he has kind of continued it in 2020 during the COVID season. He played 2 games and had knee surgery and lost season. But he came back last year and was pretty much the same guy. In 2019, his rookie year, I think he unanimously won Rookie of the Year, I believe. And it's been a great 3-year start to Alvarez's career. His 162 game average is 106 runs, 42 home runs, and 129 RBIs. And that is just lights out. He's going to be, according to this roster resource right now, which is where I go to for the lineups, he's going to be batting behind Altuve, Brantley, Bregman. All those guys are going to be on base a ton. So Alvarez is going to have every opportunity possible to drive those guys in. Last year, he was expected to hit 40 or 38 home runs, according to Baseball Savant, but he only hit 35. So maybe luck will bounce his way this year and he'll hit a few more home runs than he should. And he was also top 5% in exit velocity, expected slugging, hard hit rate. This guy is a monster when it comes to mashing the baseball. Last year was actually his worst year as well. I mean, in terms of WRC plus, he was only 138. And in 2019, he was 176. So he was more than 75% better than league average hitter. And last year he came in with 33 home runs, 92 RBI, 92 runs, and 104 RBIs in the regular season. He also underperformed on fastballs and off-speed pitches, according to Baseball Savant. So if he can, like I said, if the ball bounces his way a few more times in 2022, we could be looking at a massive jump for Yordan Alvarez. And the bold prediction is that Kyle Tucker and him will finish in the top 5 in AL MVP voting. Moving over to the NL East now, another new signing, Kyle Schwarber in Philadelphia. Bold prediction, 45 home runs with 200 combined runs and RBI. Let's just go big here. Chris Towers on the CBS podcast the other day was talking about George Springer combining for 250 runs and RBIs. Couldn't quite get there with Schwarber because the Phillies lineup, while improved and still very good, is not the type of lineup like the Toronto Blue Jays. But in 2021, 3 players reached that benchmark where they hit 45 home runs with 200 combined runs and RBIs. It was Marcus Semien, Vladimir Guerrero, and Shohei Ohtani. 2 of those guys, Blue Jays lineup. So there you go. And I think the Phillies are going to be a lot better this year. I really like the signings of Castellanos and Schwarber himself. Roster Resource has Schwarber hitting leadoff, so that will definitely help with the runs part of this prediction. And I'm hoping that the bottom of the lineup with Bryson Scott, Gene Segura, Didi Gregorius, and maybe Alec Baum gets enough people on base for Schwarber to start knocking in some runs as well. He swung at a career low 23% of his pitches outside the zone last season, while swinging at a career high 67% inside the zone. It resulted in a career high barrel rate and a 52.5% hard hit rate. So he was mashing, even though he was playing with the Nationals in his home games to begin the year in the NL East. So he actually has some looks at the pitching staffs over in the NL East as he's coming back after being traded at the All-Star break to the Boston Red Sox. And moving to Citizens Bank Park is going to be way better for him than Wrigley Field ever was or Fenway Park, because it is a way better left-handed power hitting park than those 2 places. He has played 140 games 1 time in his career, and he hit 38 home runs for the Cubs in 2019. He's predictably left field right now, but if he picks up a niggle here and there, now in the AL, we've got the DH. So hopefully he can get a few more games under his belt. I think he made massive strides last year. He's back with the prodigy hitting coach whose name I am now blanking on. I want to say Kevin Young. I should have known that off the top of my head, but I do not. So I'm just going to stick with this and say Kyle Schwarber is going to hit 45 home runs with 200 combined runs and RBI after his move to the Philadelphia Phillies. My NL Central bold prediction is the weakest of the bold predictions because it is not bold at all, but I just kind of want to highlight how ridiculous this guy is. And I feel like he hasn't been talked up enough, and maybe that's just what happens when you are one of the elite arms in the game. But my bold prediction is that Corbin Burnes is going to win another Cy Young, go back to back, and just dominate the NL voting once again. Like I said, not really bold, but I just want to, I was on his page last night because I had this podcast scheduled for Monday, but things got in the way. So I was checking out his StatCast page last night, and it's all red. It's bright red. You'd think he'd played for the Cardinals because it's so red, but he is the Milwaukee Brewers ace with just there's 96s, 99s, 94s, 92. The lowest percentile he's in is the 81st percentile for fastball velocity. And while he had a tiny dip after the sticky substance stuff went down in the first third of the year last season, he bounced right back and just was phenomenal. He had a 2.42 ERA, and he underperformed. His expected ERA, according to Baseball Savant, was 2.00. So he was unlucky with a 2.43 ERA. It's just I I feel like he's just not talked about for some reason. Maybe people are just glossing over him because of the Jacob DeGrom news and like Garrett Cole still being in New York, and everyone wants him as the first pitcher off the board. But to reveal who I have as my Cy Young pick here, it's going to be Corbin Burns. Right now, I found him at plus 950 to win the Cy Young. It was actually behind Max Scherzer. That might be a little bit different now. Um, I looked these up on Monday, and the season is today. So some of these odds may have changed, but Corbin Burns is my pick for Cy Young in the NL. And yeah, while maybe not bold, I just wanted to highlight him one more time before the season finally kicks off. And then last bold prediction is for the NL West. And it's going to be that Ryan McMahon is the best player for the Colorado Rockies in fantasy baseball. All the hype in the Mile High City, all of the oxygen has been sucked up by the Chris Bryant signing. Everyone is losing their minds about Chris Bryant moving to Colorado. We'll see. I'm pretty bullish on him. I think he's going to be really good for that lineup. I mean, it would have been pretty disastrous if he hadn't signed there. I'm not sure how they would have filled that spot, to be honest. I mean, their bench has some hope, but nothing great. So McMahon will actually slot in as the third guy in the lineup behind Bryant and Blackman. Or Blackman's leading off, Chris Bryant is second, then McMahon, with CJ Crone and Brendan Rodgers and Randall Grichuk rounding up the top six. And then we don't really need to worry about anyone else in the bottom three spots for the Rockies. But I think McMahon, he signed that extension, and now he is going to be hopefully the guy in Colorado. I mean, Chris Bryant is the flashy signing. He'll be the jerseys in the team store and stuff. But McMahon has back-to-back full seasons with at least 150 combined runs and RBI and 23 homers. So definitely viable in fantasy baseball. He's got tons of eligibility all over the diamond. He actually came in last year with the highest launch angle for his career, 14.3 degrees. So getting better. We kind of want that to be between 15 to 20 degrees. Jeff Zimmerman did a study on that, and that's what you kind of want as the ideal launch angle, but it really like perked up from where it was in recent years. His launch angle in 2018 was 7.5, then 8.8, then 9.2, and then last year 14.3. So he's definitely seems to be working on it, and he's never had one of those insane Rockies BABIP seasons from how big Coors Field is. So I'm kind of banking on an outlier season here for McMahon. It's going to be bold, but I think he's going to outperform Charlie Blackmon, who's aging, Chris Bryant, who's the new shiny toy, CJ Crone, who quietly had a great season. He's expected to have a 850 OPS at least in Colorado with about 30 home runs. But McMahon, he could get to 30 if he really starts to make more strides. He doesn't really hit the ball all that hard, but I believe that's why they call this bold prediction. So I'm going to believe that Ryan McMahon is the best player in Colorado for fantasy baseball purposes. So just running through these bold predictions one more time before we get to the standings. AL East, Joey Gallo leads baseball in home runs. AL Central, Bobby Witt Jr. scores more head-to-head points per game than Javier Baez and Carlos Correa. AL West, Kyle Tucker and Yordan Alvarez finished top 5 in AL MVP voting. Then moving over to the National League here, we've got Kyle Schwarber is going to hit 45 home runs with 200 combined runs and RBIs. NL Central, the least bold, but Corbin Burns is just going to win another Cy Young, and I just love watching him pitch. So maybe took the easy way out on that one, but going back to back in the Cy Young is never easy. It's actually happened a lot more often in the NL than you would think, with DeGrom, Kershaw, Scherzer, all in like the past decade. But I think Burns can do it. And with DeGrom and Scherzer already kind of battling hamstrings and shoulders and stuff. And yeah, I just think that Burns should be an early lock for that. And in the NL West, to wrap things up, I have Ryan McMahon will be the best player in fantasy baseball for the Colorado Rockies. So now we've got about 9 minutes to wrap this all up with some standings predictions, awards predictions, and then I will throw this back in my face in October and see how wrong I was, because baseball is crazy and there's always one thing that happens a year that you never expect. And I usually just take the safe picks in the standings, and it always ends up in October being like, what was I thinking? So here we go. In the American League, the East, I got the Blue Jays. Central, I got the White Sox. And in the West, I've got the Astros. A lot of people may be thinking the Mariners can pip the Astros to the AL West crown this year. I think they're still 1 year away. Like, very excited to see Julio Rodriguez and Jared Kelenic and Robbie Ray kind of take that franchise up a notch in terms of competitiveness. But I mean, they were right there last year, just didn't really have the horses to get all the way to the end. And in the wild card, they faded over the final weekend. And then in the wild card for the AL, I have the I have the Yankees, because I don't know how they keep doing it, but they will always seem to get their way into the playoffs. I don't really feel that great about them, because the AL East is pretty stacked still. I mean, like, so I have the wild card with the Yankees and the Angels. So that means that I have the Rays, who represented the AL in the 2020 World Series, not making the playoffs. That feels very stupid. Almost as stupid as me for totally forgetting that there's going to be 7 teams or 6 teams in each league going to the playoffs. And so I get to add another team here. And yeah, this is just going to happen live-ish on the podcast. Yeah, look. Wow, 2022 MLB format will include 12 teams rather than 10 teams. That is big blunder by me over here. So anyway, so I get to add in one more wildcard team. I guess I will make it the Rays, because I was just talking about how much I will miss them in the playoffs. And I actually think the Angels are going to take one of the wildcard spots here. I believe that a healthy Mike Trout with Rendon, Otani, Joe Adell's coming up. I think they can do it. Finally get Mike Trout back to the playoffs, maybe even win a whole playoff game for Mike Trout for the first time in his career. And then in the ALCS, I have the White Sox over the Astros. MVP for each of these awards, I'll give out like my pick and then a sleeper. So MVP, Shohei Otani, plus 400. I mean, if he does like 75% of what he did last year, there's no way that he shouldn't win it. He was unanimous first place last season. And yeah, when you got a guy that can hit the way he hits and pitches the way he throws, and like, I don't know how he can't be the most valuable player when he is like 2 players in one. But my sleeper pick, just like my bill prediction, is Kyle Tucker plus 3,000 on VegasInsider.com consensus. In the Cy Young, I think Garrett Cole finally gets it done, finally picks up that hardware. But my sleeper is his former teammate and the guy that beat him to the last Cy Young he was in contention for in 2019 is Justin Verlander at plus 1,600. I mean, JV looks electric in the spring, and I fully expect him to come back and lead the Astros to another AL West crown. And for Rookie of the Year, I have switched on my notes the AL and the NL thing. So here we go. Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be my pick at plus 300, and Julio Rodriguez was plus 700, but this was before the call up. So it's probably gone down a lot there, but he would be my sleeper there. In the NL, I've got the Braves, Brewers, Dodgers winning the division. And then in the wild card, I have the Padres, the Phillies, and since I did the same in the AL, I will just add another pick. I'll go with the Cardinals because they always seem to be right there and they're kind of annoying. And in the NLCS, I have the Dodgers over the Braves because my MVP, which was going to be my NL West bold prediction, but that didn't seem bold enough. But my MVP pick is Trey Turner, plus 1,400 right now. And then Manny Machado is my sleeper. Cy Young, I got Corbin Burns, with my sleeper being Max Fried. And rookie is Seiya Suzuki at plus 380, but my sleeper is Hunter Green at plus 1,000. So, feel okay about that. I mean, Suzuki in Chicago, if he does anything, if the Cubs are any fun at all, he should get a lot of the applause in that regard. And I think Rookie of the Year is always a coin flip, so I'll just take the guy in a big market. And then for the World Series, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers over the Chicago White Sox in 7 games, with the MVP being Freddie Freeman. They're just so good. I really don't want the Dodgers to win. I will be actively rooting against them most of the season, but that lineup is so good. Plus, they play on the West Coast. So, with me being over here in Germany, I'll see a ton of West Coast games early in the morning when I'm up writing DFS picks and prepping for the podcast. So, I will be watching a lot of them, hopefully, some Astros as well if they stay up late enough. And yeah, I just think the Dodgers have the bats, they have the arms, they have the manager. I mean, Dave Roberts even said he thinks they're going to win the World Series this year. So they got some swagger. And yeah, that's my pick. So this year for baseball, I'll be doing this podcast 3 times a week. But I think only one episode a week will be baseball right now until the Premier League season ends. And then we will see if it goes twice a week. Still got Fantasy Formula One with the Australian Grand Prix this weekend. That podcast will be out either tomorrow, probably tomorrow because practice is in the morning. But anyways, for back to baseball, I will be writing for rotoballer.com on Mondays with my DFS picks. And then at pitcherlist.com, I will be doing Tuesday DFS with my picks over there. So I will tweet out those articles every time they get published, and you can follow me there on Twitter at Euan or You Out. And yeah, I am pumped for baseball season. It's felt like a long time since I was sitting on my couch at 5:30 in the morning, just flabbergasted at that Game 6 in the World Series where the Braves thumped the Astros. So new season brings new hope. And yeah, I mean, I don't have the Astros going all the way this year. I think the White Sox have built up enough scar tissue that they can maybe get over the hump this year and get to the World Series. And I think the Dodgers are just kind of a juggernaut that just kind of ran into a Braves team filled with like team of destiny stuff. So yeah, that is the bold predictions. That is the Standing Predictions podcast. Once again, thanks for listening. You can follow, like, subscribe, whatever on Spotify, Apple playlist. That's usually where people download and listen to. And yeah, once again, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you guys next time.